Hi, Russ. It's so weird without the music.
I know. I'm not dancing around or anything.
I was gonna say the same. I didn't realize how much I'll miss it.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'm gonna go get my glass of water. I left it in the other office. I'll be right back.
No worries.
I did the same thing. I literally just ran and grabbed my water. Yeah. Say the same. I didn't realize how much I'll miss it. I
Talk
hear
amongst
myself.
yourselves. I'm gonna go get my glass of water. I left it in the other office.
I I picked because we're live on YouTube. If Russ has his phone, it's probably going to be on a loop. So we'll just tell him when he gets back.
Yeah. That was weird hearing myself.
Oh, technology on YouTube. If Russ has his phone, it's probably going to be on a loop. So we'll just tell him when he gets back.
Yeah. That was weird hearing myself.
I'm gonna text him. Oh, if I text him, it's just gonna go to his phone that's in the boardroom.
We're stuck.
Just a never-ending loop. But it's exciting that we're on YouTube again. I know we tried it a few weeks ago, and when we were all in the office with the owls. So it's nice to try it again when we're in different spots and see how that works, how it's different. I'm not sure if I can see how many viewers we have online. And when we were all in the office with the owls. So it's nice to try it again when we're in different spots and see how that works, how it's different. I'm not sure how many viewers we have on.
I'm scared to speak.
Oh, Russ.
He's
Uh,
back.
do you have your phone with our live on the table there?
Do I have my what?
Does your phone have our YouTube live? We
I've got my computer.
Okay, we hear some crazy feedback. So about there's like a 5-10 second delay, and then we'll hear ourselves again.
How about now?
I
We'll
think that
find out in a bit.
yeah, we'll find out.
Are you getting any feedback now?
No, I can't hear anything now.
Okay. I'm gonna make sure our live viewers can hear us. So,
Okay.
all right. Yeah.
I think Ashley and Russ both brought dogs in the office. So there's two Samoyeds and a little puppy.
Oh. Yeah, and I think hers was with Sadie too the other day, right? Yeah, how did that go?
Yeah, it was good. Ashley's puppy is super, super um, energetic still. And because Sadie's almost 4, she was sort of like, I'm too old for this stuff. She just kind of kept to her own. Russ, we
I,
were talking about your dogs met Ashley's puppy today.
oh yeah, they're in the office there. Oh,
Nice.
this is here. One, I know I can grab this one and bring her over. The other one I have to chase around a little bit.
Um,
Baby. The puppies all got along good today.
Aw, that's so good.
Daisy.
But Lucy and Daisy are used to not being the only dog around, right? They're sisters, so
It's tough, right? If you only got one dog and they don't get socialized, they get a little bit nervous. So
yeah, we took Sadie to the dog park yesterday and it was kind of like 3 dogs doing their own thing. And then one puppy came in and just instantly it was just pure joy and running around. So it's funny how one personality can come in and shake things up, right? So
strength in numbers.
yeah, absolutely.
So welcome to our audience members. We may have some technical difficulties, but we're going to get through it. We're live streaming on YouTube today. And
this
I'm
is
getting
our second
thumbs
week
up.
on
Can you
YouTube.
hear us?
Yeah, it sounds great.
Okay, so if you can hear us, great. If you have audio issues, just put it in the chat and we'll get it sorted.
All right, and it is 5 on the dot, so I will get us started. Welcome everyone to After Hours. Before we dive into our topic, just a quick housekeeping for those of us on Zoom. There is no chat function available, but feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to submit your comments or questions. While we are here to provide valuable insights on separation, divorce, and family law, please remember that any information shared in this series should not be taken as legal advice. And today we are talking about the impact of separation and divorce on children. The three of us here will speak to our experience dealing with families going through a separation and divorce and the impact this can have on children. If you have children and you are concerned about any impact on them, we highly recommend that you do speak to a professional. We are not child behavior specialists, but we will be speaking to our experiences as lawyers and lawyer-to-be who deal with these matters quite a bit. And towards the end, I will be sharing on how you can get a free 20-minute consultation with one of our lawyers. So stick around until the end.
You might be able to get one tonight. We have operators on standby, right? Or book one at least.
Yeah, of course.
They're waiting by the phone. All right, now I will introduce our speakers for today. We have Steph with us. She has been with the firm since 2018. She was called to the Bar of Ontario in 2022 and is now an associate lawyer at the firm. Steph completed her undergraduate degree at Queen's University and obtained her law degree from the University of Liverpool in 2020, graduating with first-class honors. Steph, like everyone else you see, me and Russ, we are all trained as collaborative practice lawyers, and she is committed to assisting clients through what is traditionally a difficult time by approaching matters with empathy, integrity, and compassion. We have Russell here. He is the founder and senior partner at Russell Alexander Collaborative Family Lawyers. With over 25 years of experience, he uses his knowledge and expertise to serve his clients in all aspects of family law and helps them cope with the difficulties of separation and divorce. Russell has written 4 books and is a fully trained collaborative practice lawyer. He speaks at conferences on collaborative practice, marketing, technology, and the law. Lastly, there is me. I'm a law graduate from Osgoode Hall Law School. I'm an articling student at the firm with plans to be called to the bar in June next month. I am focused on launching my legal career in family law. I'm dedicated to providing empathetic and proficient legal support for those navigating family-related complexities. I will now jump into our topic, and I'll start by giving a bit of an overview on the impacts that separation and divorce can have on children. As we all know that separation and divorce can be a particularly hard time for children. There can be a lot of emotional, psychological, and social impacts. There have been a lot of studies that show that children from separation and divorced parents, they can experience an increased risk of mental health problems, engaging in risky behavior, and experience their own family instability, which is why it is so important that you safeguard their mental health and keep them away from conflict as you go through your separation or divorce. From an emotional and psychological standpoint, these children can go through emotional instability. They may find it hard to form healthy relationships in the future because of how the divorce might have impacted them. There is also an increased risk of anxiety and depression. Socially, children whose family are going through a divorce may find it harder to relate to others, and they tend to have less social contacts. Sometimes children feel insecure, and they may be ashamed and uncomfortable of the fact that their parents are going through a divorce. Another impact is certain behavioral responses, both short-term and long-term. And I'm hoping, Russ, maybe you can speak a bit on that. What are some behavioral responses that we can see in children who are going through, who are in a family that is going through a divorce?
Yeah, thank you, Shanz. It's a super important topic. Changes are you can see a number of things, especially with younger children who don't tend to verbalize their emotions well. So we'll start seeing problems at school, sleep disruptions, changes to their appetite, changes in their mood, more irritable, fighting more with their siblings, having difficulty with their emotional regulation, withdrawing from previously enjoyed activities, withdrawing from family and friends, and some possible signs of stress and separation. That these are signs that, the separation is starting to stress them out. So basically, their habits, their activities, their communication, their behavior is all out of sorts. So you want to keep that in mind. This can be even more pronounced with children with disabilities or pre-existing mental conditions. So really, a whole gambit of things that you can look for. There could be other reasons why your child's exhibiting these behaviors, but oftentimes it's what we see common from parents going through separation and divorce. Even when the divorce is peaceful and it's relatively seems calm between the parents, the children still start exhibiting these behaviors. So you need to keep an eye out for them and help your clients, right? You may need to get counseling for the children or for the family to help understand and give the kids tools that they can use to cope with their emotions, with school, with their friends. Try to keep them active in the community, keep them engaged in their sports or their hobbies, whatever that may be. And I think that's going to go a long way. What do you think, Steph? Oftentimes our clients are reporting these kind of behaviors to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you said and what Shannon said at the beginning of all of this, you know, setting your child or your children up for success, both immediately and long term, it may be helpful to seek assistance from guidance counselors, social workers, therapists, ensuring that the right professional is guiding your child or your children through what's, it's already a difficult time. No one anticipates their plans to go through a separation. And even the parties, it can be extremely hard on the two people going through the separation, let alone, how it can trickle down to the kids. So absolutely.
And somebody's asking about, what are some of these mental health conditions? Well, you got ADHD, general anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, autism spectrum disorder. Children with these underlying issues, you're going to see these behaviors can be even more pronounced.
And you can see them long term too, like there's depression and then the impacts that what they've gone through within their personal family and parents, and then the impacts of that on how they treat their partner and their children. You can see a very long-term effect. And I think a lot of times parents, they don't think that far, but the consequences can definitely stretch that far. I think naturally now we would want to know what parents should do different to kind of minimize these effects on children. Helping staff, maybe you can speak a little bit on what communication strategies parents can implement to discuss separation and divorce with their children that is like in an age-appropriate manner.
Yeah, absolutely. We have clients coming to us who they're just in the early stages. They haven't maybe even told their ex or their current partner that they want to take that leap into a separation agreement or work towards separating. So when it gets to the conversation with the kids about telling the kids, often I'll encourage or support engaging the help of a family professional. Fortunately, our firm, we're very immersed in the collaborative family practice world. So if you go on any of the collaborative practice websites, you can find a professional in your area. And that person, they can be jointly retained by you and your spouse. And they can provide you with guidance, coaching, how to tell your children that you are separating. But I think some key highlights are, you should speak with your spouse and make a plan, be on the same page when you go to tell your children. The last thing that we, like to see is a client comes in our door and they say, my ex, they just told the kids it's over. They told them we were separating. They painted me as this horrible person. And it right from the start, the other parent is trying to pin the kids against them. And that can be a very, very difficult, footing to start off on. You're coming in hot, you're coming in quite adversarial. So that's something that I would always encourage parties to do, is be on the same page with your spouse about telling the kids and when to tell the kids and how to tell the kids. Um, Avoid placing blame. You know, no matter who did what, whose fault it was, in quotes, that the relationship broke down. Placing blame, it's not productive to your children's growth and facilitating a great relationship between the kids and the other parent. And another thing is listen to your children. Every child, like, we can't predict how they're going to react. You as their parents can't predict how they're going to react. All you can do is control how you react. So I think listening, don't dismiss their emotions. Those are really helpful, things to keep in mind when you're talking about navigating bringing that conversation up with your kids.
Yeah, and I hope we're not going to get to this later, but there's also a document lawyers often refer clients to, which is the rules for separated parents. And it's sad that we have to write these rules down, but it's just common sense rules that you need to follow if you're going through a separation. Don't use your children as spies. Don't, basic things about engaging the children into the conflict of that often occurs with separated parents. And I've had a client, she taped the rules to her fridge, and once in both homes, and like mom and dad's, and the kid would call out the parent, say, "You're breaking rule number 5, or you're breaking rule number 7." And it's unfortunate that the children in that family had to police their parents' communication. But we'll try to include it in the show notes or in the follow-up survey. It's a really effective tool in terms of a strategy for parents to discussing separation and divorce with their children.
Yeah, great points. We'll definitely include it in the show notes. And thank you, Steph, for your tips. Those were great too. I think some of the other strategies that parents can implement to minimize the negative impact of separation can be things like committing to a one-on-one time with each child. I think it is so important for both the parents to keep that connection, that relationship with the children strong, spending that one-on-one time with them with no distraction, just talking to them, spending that quality time can do a lot for your relationship with them. You don't even have to talk, just be present, do an activity. Every child is different. Some may prefer talking it out, other may just want you to be there with them. So take that time aside for them, take it out and make sure you're there for them. Establishing new family rituals and routines is another way to strengthen the bond between parents and children. They can convey messages that, like, we're still a family. It can also convey a positive sense of hope about the future, because that's what the children want to see, that, their family is still there for them, with them, that separation divorce doesn't affect that. If you are entering into a new relationship, either hold it off a bit, or even if you are in a relationship, make sure it doesn't cut into your child's time with you. Children can be emotionally fragile, and if they feel that they're being replaced by the new partner, then that can be very damaging. If the new partner has children, that can also bring a lot of changes to their lives. So be mindful of that. Make sure you're giving them enough time and attention. Something else you can do, and I think Russ already mentioned that, involve them in activities that can help them understand and cope with their emotions. Get them involved in sports, physical activities if they're not already doing so. Look at things like developing a support network, seeking legal procedures that focus on children's developmental needs, professionals as needed. Steph mentioned that. If you think any of that is needed for your child, and if they're struggling, go for it. Moving on, unless Steph and the rest of you might want to add anything here, I'll move on and we can talk about as we're talking about the effects of separation on children, I was hoping, Russ, you can give some insight on how age, gender, and a child's temperament, how can all of that come together and affect how separation affects the children?
Yeah, I get it. Lawyers always get the question, and I'm going to get to your question in a moment. When can the child decide, right? Little Johnny had a great summer with his dad, and now he wants to stay there and go to school at his dad's place and change residence. So when does the child's voice carry the day? And the reason why I'm telling you this story is because in my view, there's no magical age when you're dealing with young children. We have 8, 9-year-olds that are old souls and act like they're 15 or 16. We have 14, 15-year-olds who are completely immature. So, the number doesn't necessarily correlate to some of the comments I'm going to be making because every child's different. Some are much more advanced in terms of the way they're thinking of the world and emotional regulation. Older ones might be less so. So having said all that, yeah, the stage of development can have massive impact on the child's ability to cope. So let's just start with younger children. So I'm talking maybe the range of 3 to 8. They're going to express their feelings behaviorally, acting out at home, difficulty getting set for bed, trouble with peers and teachers at school, moving to the next sort of class of kids, having, with the caveat that I started off, older children, I'm talking maybe 9 to 16, they're going to have a much different reaction. For older children, they will either internalize the stress and they're going to suffer from anxiety and depression. They become withdrawn, go to their room and shut the door and not talk to anybody for days, play on their game systems. They'll do that anyway, but it is pronounced during a separation and divorce. Or they may externalize their behavior, like acting out, engaging in open conflict with peers, perhaps getting into a fight in the schoolyard and being expelled from school, and getting into a fight with their teachers, with their parents, and their sibling rivalry and fights as well. So older children are much more likely to, quote, take a side, right? They're going to side with mom, they're going to side with dad. For whatever reason, maybe they just feel the other parent somehow betrayed them by leaving the home. And are much more vulnerable to the language we used last week is parental alienation. So much more vulnerable and susceptible to being perhaps coached or alienated by one parent to the other. And we see that less with younger children. So those are some general things you want to look out for. That's sort of, the younger and the older kids' reactions. Having said that, we all know kids who are very mature for their age and very immature for their age as well. So you want to keep that in context as well.
Thanks, Russ. And we have a question come in as well, where there's a 5-year-old who does not want to go to school and spend more time with the parent. And the question is how is this behavior perhaps related to their separation and divorce? And I think this kind of answers itself. Like children can, respond to separation and divorce if they feel like it is impacting them and the family. And this looks like this child wants to spend more time with their parents because of what they're going through. Staff, Russ, any comments you wanna add to this question?
We get this all the time, right? Little Johnny doesn't want to go see his mom or dad, right? And let's just say that little Johnny's 5 years old. Well, 5-year-olds don't want to go see the dentist. They don't want to eat healthy foods. The parent has a duty to ensure the best interest of the child and get the child to the dentist in proper care. Have a healthy diet, exercise, just like the parent has a duty to encourage that child's relationship with the other parent. So I think a 5-year-old's view and opinions are less likely to inform the parents or the court in terms of what should happen, mainly because it's the parent's duty and responsibility to look after the best interests of a child that age. But what's your reaction to that question, Steph?
Yeah, I think one of the things to bear in mind is every child's different. Um, there is something called the AFCC guide. So what they've done is they've put together this parenting plan guide, and I see more and more courts referencing this. So maybe this is something that we can include in our show notes. So in this guide, they talk about, limits to co-parenting, you know, um, having a temporary plan, modifying the plan, and they actually go into age appropriate plans and schedules. What's something that would work for a 9 to 18 month old. Well, that will look very different for somebody or a child who's in preschool versus, elementary school. So I think that's something that we'll send out to our audience members so you can take a look through that and see where your child might fall and what schedule or what assistance would be best for them.
We had a great question come in through our YouTube live stream. Thank you. The question is, how can teachers support children at school and childcare? That's a great question. First, I would recommend over-communicate with the parents. Let them know what behaviors they're seeing. It could be a one-off, or it could be a sign of something much more serious and unfortunate. Provide the parents with information and details about resources in your community or in your school district where the parents can get education and go to seminars and learn how to help their children through separation and divorce. But really important, teachers are often on the front lines. They're seeing this reaction firsthand in their classrooms. They may be reporting the child to the principal's office. So they're really the parents' eyes and ears when the children are at school. And if they're exhibiting this behavior, then let the parents know that their conduct's having this effect. Great question. Keep the questions coming in. We love them.
Yeah, and I think sometimes children may even find it easier to talk to a third person, like a teacher, who they trust, than because sometimes they don't always want to talk to their parents or talk to the other parent if they are going through something. And sometimes the teachers might be the first people to find out what's going on at home. And so, like, if you do see something like that, then it's you should definitely take that step and communicate that to the parents. Okay.
Another
I do.
question came in: is it the duty to send the child to school, or is it the child's mental health and well-being more important? Well, you certainly want to understand why the child doesn't want to go to school. If there's bullying going on or abuse or some kind of underlying issue, you want to get to the root of that. Lots of families homeschool their children. The children still need to get an education, or they put their kids in private school or Catholic or other religious institutions as well. But certainly in Canada, the child needs a proper education, whether it's at home or at school. But if there is a reaction and the child doesn't want to go to school, we need to get an understanding why. Simply because a child doesn't want to go to school that day doesn't decide the matter. But that's a great question. Thank you for sending it in.
Yeah, and just sorry to add to that, Russ. If, for example, if you have a shared parenting arrangement, let's say, or even the child's with the other parent every, every Tuesday and Wednesday or something like that, where it's a school day, the failure to encourage or facilitate that child's attendance at school, especially on a very consistent and ongoing basis, where it results in the child's missed attendances, not getting the proper schooling and education that they need. I think there is a fine line between encouraging your child to go to school and just letting them stay home so that they can hang out and watch TV and spend time together. At the end of the day, you are still parents and you do have a responsibility to ensure your kids are getting proper education. I actually have a file right now where there's a multitude of other concerns, but the child's attendance at school or sort of lack thereof resulted in a complete flip of parenting time. So just, something to be mindful of as well. Yes, we encourage mental health to take a priority, but like Russ said, we want to understand why the child doesn't want to go to school, and is it because they don't like it, they don't like the dentist, they want to hang out and watch TV, or is there bullying, is there some more serious issues that do take precedence over attendance at school. So it's really about finding that balance and understanding the why behind it.
100% stuff. And I'm helping on a file where this parent has a child during the week, and whatever overnight they have, the child is not going to school the next day. And this has been going on for months. And this is, if you think there are mental health concerns, then I think it's a good idea to involve a professional, a counselor, a therapist that can address these issues. But like we all said, you have to balance everything out and find what's best for the child. I will now switch gears a little bit and talk about extended family. And I want to emphasize on the role that extended family can play in supporting families and children going through a divorce. I think grandparents, uncles, and aunts on both sides of the families can be a resource for the parents and the children. I think maintaining positive relationships between children and their extended family members should be encouraged. Sometimes parents will, because of strong feelings about a former partner, are tempted to exclude the in-laws from their lives and the lives of the children. Unless there are valid concerns, we discourage from doing that. Grandparents can really be a source of love and familial bond for the children. If you are cutting off grandparents and extended family, then the children lose a lot more than just the immediate family unit. You're essentially bringing a lot of changes to their lives and cutting off a lot of people that they considered family. And there can be a lot of benefits having continued contact with the extended family. Children can have they can have self-esteem issues from the divorce. They may start to question who they are, who their family is, if they're still loved. They may blame themselves for the divorce. There can be a lot that can be going on through a children's mind. Grandparents and extended family members can kind of reassure the children that they are lovable. So you want to continue to include the children in family events, encourage and facilitate communication between the child and their grandparents and other extended family members. Assure that the separation has not changed anything to the children about how you and the extended family members continue to love and value them. Having contact can give the children much needed love, which they may feel is lacking in the family because of the separation and divorce. Spending time with them can give continuity and stability in their lives. If the extended family members were important to the children before the separation, they will continue to be important to them after too. If there are any traditions where they maybe they spend certain weekends with the grandparents, continue those traditions, don't cut them off all of a sudden. It also helps for the children with having a sense of belonging. After separation, children will wonder where they belong. They may need assurance that they still belong in both families, whatever the cause of separation may be. And if one of the parents is not in the picture, then having contact with the extended family and grandparents can kind of minimize those feelings in the children. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to say a little bit on extended family.
Yeah.
Um, mm,
Oh, sorry, Shanza. I was actually just gonna say, as especially if you're in court, there's a certain form that you have to fill out whenever you're going through the legal proceedings or a court application and you're dealing with children. So it's called the 35.1 affidavit. And in this affidavit, both parents will have to fill their own out, but you actually need to list, where you plan to live, who you plan to live with. So whether you're with your parents or, a new partner, aunts and uncles, whoever it may be, you have to list all of these people as well as, what their relationship is to you, if they've ever been involved with the CAS, if they've ever been found guilty of a criminal offense. So you have to list the background of all of these other adults who are going to be actively involved and actively around your child or your children. And the other thing you have to lay out too is, what is your plan? What is your plan for regular contact with others, including the children's parents, the other side, extended family. So it is something that the courts encourage parties to turn their minds to. And they want to see that you're not going to completely cut this child off from an entire section of their family.
Yeah, that's a great point. Unfortunately, grandparents are sometimes the only stable force in the child's life when the parents are going at war. Both sets of grandparents play an important role. And studies show that children who have healthy relationships with both sides of the family and extended family turn out to be much more productive members of society. Children who do not often do poorly in school end up in the youth and adult criminal justice system, drug addiction, drop out of school, unemployed. So it's really vital that you encourage that relationship. We had a question that came in: can a parent not get shared parenting due to not sending the child, say, once a month? What Steph talked about in terms of reversing custody is the exception, not the norm. That's when a parent is being a roadblock to that child's relationship with the other parent. And it's gotten so bad that there needs to be a change. Courts like the status quo, assuming the child is doing well. And this question is dependent on the facts. Are we talking about a court order? Are we talking about a separation agreement? Court orders should be followed. They're not a suggestion, but perhaps the parent didn't bother to exercise their 1 monthly visit for 3-4 years. So you need to question, is it in the child's relationship best interest that continue, or is there a reason why that didn't occur? So for us to give you a more meaningful insight, we need to get a little bit more context to provide you with proper legal advice. But great question. Please keep
Yeah.
coming in.
And like Russ, mentioned, well, and we've really all mentioned throughout this, it's very, very dependent on your circumstances. What are the facts? What other elements are at play?
Mhm.
And we talk about this a lot in this series. What's in the best interest of the child, and every child is different. So those needs, those different factors for the courts to consider and lawyers to consider when advising you and creating suggestions and brainstorming schedules and parenting plans. There are so many things that go into these. They're very, very complex, which is why we always encourage you to speak to a lawyer. You can call our office, call a lawyer in your area, and yeah, get tailored advice for your specific circumstances.
Yeah, we've got lots of great questions coming in. Thank you. Can a former partner prohibit the children to see or share time with extended family? Well, if you're sitting in my office and you're the former partner, my question would be, why are you prohibiting the child from having the relationship with the grandparents or extended family? Maybe there was a sexual assault, drug abuse, violence in the home. Those could be reasons why that contact should be supervised or scaled back or restricted. Could be court orders preventing extended family from getting involved through the criminal court system. So I would want to know why. Is it simply just because you don't like your spouse or he or she found a new partner? That is not a reason. Is it because little Johnny's daddy's not paying child support? Well, child support and parenting time are not connected. You can't prevent the visit from occurring because the support payment didn't come in that month. It wouldn't be in little Johnny's best interest to do so. So again, great question, but it tells us that you're thinking through these issues. Child misses father. All right. keep the questions coming in. We're going to try to get it to as many as we can, but what do you think, Steph? Why would anybody want to prevent the extended family from having contact, especially knowing what the studies are saying, right? Much healthier, more productive members of society when they do. So what would be the reason not to? Unless maybe a flight risk, perhaps they're going to leave the country and not return. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think in my experience and conversations I've had with my clients, a lot stems from the breakdown of the relationship, especially if you are a younger couple or you're a couple and you have a very close bond with your own parents, the child's grandparents. You're gonna lean on your family for support when it comes to navigating separation, all of the emotions, the ups, the downs. So it is possible and actually fairly common that the parent of the spouse, they sort of join forces and they have maybe their own opinions or views on your former partner, and that might make you uncomfortable or vice versa. So if it's really the emotion and you don't understand or you don't agree with their perception of how the relationship broke down, that's one thing as opposed to, like Russ, you mentioned actual safety concerns. So that's something I see frequently, and I always encourage and to highlight to my clients at the end of the day, when your child is grown up and they're planning their wedding and they're making their seating chart, won't you want the extended family there? Wouldn't they want the extended family there? Same with walking your child down the aisle. You have to think of the long-term effects that this might have on your child. And if you're going through a really um, difficult separation and it's very emotion driven, it's very, you're at each other's throats in a sense. When the kids grow older and they reflect and they look back, it may impact your relationship down the line that you're not even considering right now. And that's something that, I've seen firsthand. So I always caution clients against that or about that.
What do you think? Story time stuff?
We always love a good story.
So I had this case. Parents had fairly close to equal parenting time. Mom was estranged from her dad. They got in a fight or something. And so she's preventing her own father from seeing his grandchild. And they had a great relationship. So the dad, the granddad asked the bio dad, who was my client, for visits to the child, right? And my client said, what should I do? I go, the kid, little Johnny's got a great relationship with his granddad. Send him on the visit, encourage the relationship. So mom's father was enjoying time with his grandchild during her other spouse's parents' time because dad recognized that relationship was important. So there's lots of creative ways when there's a roadblock. There's a question in our Q&A box about a roadblock and mom putting up a roadblock. Maybe go through dad or the other parent, say, I want to continue the relationship with my grandchild. And that can be done through the other parent's time at the court. The other response I would have for the question that came in, the child's 5 and they're in court. The court has lots of tools in its toolbox. It can get a parenting assessment done through the Office of the Children's Lawyer in the Courts of Justice Act. The parties can arrange for private counseling, private assessments to report to the court. That particular child is a little bit young for a Voice of the Child report, but if there's clinical issues, Office of the Children's Lawyer may be appointed. Lots of options open. So we know how important the child's relationship with both parents can be and something worth exploring. That's it. Story's over. That's all I got.
Oh, you're on mute, Shanza.
Oh, sorry. Great story, Russ and Steph. You said some amazing points. So I'm going to let you hold the floor for longer because I want you to now go into some pointers that you have for parents in a post-separation household on how they can provide stability and a nurturing environment to the children.
Yeah, absolutely. And Russ sort of hinted at this rules for separated parents. It's actually, I believe, created by the judges. So it's the judges' rules. They rely on it, they emphasize it, they reference it, and it's a great um, roadmap for how to conduct yourself and your relationship with, your now co-parent, to ensure that whether they're in your home, at the other parent's home, it's a stable environment, it's a consistent environment. Communication, so long as there's a healthy way to communicate, whether it's you're on the same page and you can text back and forth, or maybe using a parenting app such as Our Family Wizard or App Close. Those are two that we see frequently. Those can be great tools so that you can continue corresponding with each other, but in a very child-focused way. You can share schedules, pictures of, dance recitals or, soccer games, updates with respect to any doctor's appointments, report cards, all of that can go through the app. It's in one place and you get a message, you have a notification on App Close. Oh, I know it's, my daughter's parent. Let me go take a look. It's not maybe as jolting as passive aggressive language through emails or text messages. A lot of these parenting apps have embedded within them some form of recognition of when passive aggressive comments are being made, and it will deter you away from using that type of behavior. So after a while, using these applications or these resources, you start to get in a pattern of not even taking those steps anymore. You sort of refrain and edit yourself so that you start to move away from that toxic or sort of not child-focused communication style and into something that's more productive, and that you can maybe even become work on your relationship in terms of a co-parenting relationship with the other parent. So I think those are great tips. Things that we've seen judges reference, other, professionals, family professionals reference, and having going back to a parenting plan, having a fulsome, comprehensive parenting plan that outlines a stable system. So you both know who's in charge of scheduling dentist appointments. You both know who has, Easter weekend versus Halloween versus whatever long weekend is coming up. So there's no last minute, you should be at one parent's house or the other parent's house. It sort of eliminates the need for last minute frantic potential arguments. So I think that's always something that I would recommend as well, so that you can kind of alleviate those hiccups and roadblocks and obstacles as you continue to co-parent down the line.
Yeah, great question came in. What we are using at close. How can we leverage messages best in court? Leverage the messages in court. Well, I don't know if I'd use the word leverage. How would the messages best help the court or the parents to understand the best interest of the child? So when we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, a quick refresh. Section 24 of the Children's Law Reform Act lists the criteria the judge will consider when determining the best interests of the child. Several factors, lots of them overplay. The Divorce Act, federal legislation has similar language to determine the best interests of the child. So if you were in my office and you asked me that question, I would say, well, what is it that we're trying to understand? Are the messages showing there's abuse or a parent's not being responsive to the needs of the child? Are the messages showing that this parent's doing an excellent job of keeping the other parent informed and encouraging the child's relationship with the other parent? So that's the analysis I would go into. I want to jump over to our YouTube audience who's also streaming and watching live. Um, in terms of tips and tricks, these are great suggestions when helping children who may be having issues acting out, or having trouble at school. You can send the kids for the play dates, take them to movies to relieve the stress, take them for a walk or park to avoid the discussion about issues in front of the children. Great tips, all very helpful. So that's what I had added. And keep the questions coming in. They're flowing in here. We're going to try to get to as many as we can.
Yeah, I just saw one sort of a follow-up to that about how to use them, how to copy or share them. So that's more of a drafting question when it comes to pleadings, like how to use them as exhibits. So I don't know if we have a topic like that coming up, but definitely there should be a way to download the transcript or
Yeah.
screenshot the messages, and that's something about that you can use as an exhibit. So that's still, again, it sort of branches off the topic for today, but
Yeah. And you want to be mindful of deep fakes too, right? We've
absolutely.
seen message strings produced that never happened. They were fabricated by somebody using a program to make it look like a text message string. So if you're getting this evidence and it didn't occur, you want to be mindful of deep fakes. There's ways you can go about it to get the evidence properly before the court. You can get an order for Facebook to export the data. So it's coming from Facebook. Facebook can export data you've scrubbed or erased from the system. They still have a record of it. And if it turns out you're filing fake evidence with the court and you're misleading the court, things are going to go very badly for you very quickly. First of all, you're going to lose your credibility with the court. Your pleadings may be struck. Your case may be thrown out. You could be required to pay the other side's legal fees and costs. So certainly go see a lawyer, get some good advice, and let them help you be guided through the system.
Thank you, Russ and Steph, for all your insights and for taking up all those questions. Now, I do want to take a few minutes and talk about some of the signs that children exhibit that can show that they are struggling. And I think this is kind of the first step that parents should keep an eye out on to figure out how the divorce and separation is impacting the children. So some of the signs that you want to keep a lookout for are drop in academic performance. I think Russ kind of hit on that a little bit. So, usually academic performance can fluctuate, but if your child marks, they drop down drastically, you might want to know the cause. The decline could be caused by, it could be anything, sadness, difficulty concentrating on school due to stress. And it can look like a drop in grades, forgetfulness, or even carelessness when it comes to school and assignments, struggling to concentrate on homework, difficulty paying attention in school. You also want to keep a lookout on any emotional outbursts and changes in behavior. We talked about that before as well. You may notice regressed behavior like tantrums or the child is being difficult. All of these can be a sign that the child is having difficulty coping with the divorce. Children may also act out as a way to seek attention or to express their emotions. So keeping a close eye on your child's behavior is really important to help determine if your child is struggling. Eating issues is another sign. The emotional toll that the divorce can take on a child may sometimes manifest itself into their eating habits. You don't want it to lead to any eating disorders in the future. If your child is young, then they may avoid food or they may become picky eaters. Some of the signs you want to look out for are if they're eating very little, if they're eating too much, not wanting to eat in public or in front of others, fasting, going to the bathroom right after eating, or any significant changes in weight. All of this can be an indication that the child is struggling. There's also sleeping issues. So children may struggle with sleep as they adjust to the new living environment or changes in their routines. If they're going from one household to two, for some kids, the stress of these changes could lead to sleep deprivation, insomnia, and others it might even lead to sleeping too much. But a child might use sleep to repress their emotions or unconsciously as a psychological response. Separation anxiety, children may also begin to, they may develop anxiety after divorce. It is when a child experiences distress about being away from home or loved ones, or excessive worry about perhaps losing a parent or a loved one or not spending enough time with them. Loss of interest in activities. Sometimes where children are stressed, they may lose interest in things that they enjoyed before, any extracurriculars. They may distance themselves from family, friends, or activities that they usually love. Try to talk to your child and support them where you can during this time. Provide them with a safe space where they can express their thoughts and feelings openly. There are resources available. Steph and Russ, if you have any comments, feel free. And Russ, I'm also hoping if you can talk, tell us about some resources that are available for parents so they can help their children during this time.
Yeah, that's really insightful, Shanza. I guess interventions and resources to help kids navigate separation or divorce. Well, younger children could benefit from play, music, art, or movement therapy to help them express some of their upset feelings and have them validated. They may also benefit from some simple techniques to help them manage their stress. Younger children haven't developed a theory of the mind yet, so to speak. So talk therapy in an office setting may not work well for them. Younger children could also benefit from their parents participating in sessions to help their parents better understand how separation is impacting them. Older children, on the other hand, would benefit from more traditional talk therapy. They have what family professionals and psychologists would call a theory of the mind. So they can benefit from therapies like CBT and DBT. They may also benefit from art or music therapy, but they're likely too old for that type of therapy to be useful. Most importantly, reach out to your community. There's groups for children. There's groups offered for children in some jurisdictions and programs for children who have witnessed or been part of family violence. So if you don't have those resources or you don't know where to go, talk to your family doctor. The Ontario government has a lot of information and resources. The Ontario Superior Court of Justice has resources available. If you want to physically attend at a Superior Court of Justice, a unified Superior Court, they should have what we call a FLIC office, which is a Family Law Information Center. There they'll have pamphlets and booklets and resources produced by the federal government, the government of Canada, and the Ontario government to help you get assistance for your children. And also reach out to a lawyer or one of us. There's family law professionals available usually in your community. If you're living in a remote or rural community, now since the pandemic, we're finding a lot of these professionals are providing access to these services via Zoom and Skype. So Northern Ontario, who can easily access these services, can now access them remotely online. So those are a few tips and a few things I would say to our audience tonight.
Thanks so much, Russ. And we have one more topic for today, and I'm hoping, Russ, you can finish us off. Steph, you can finish us off today by talking about how parents can foster resilience and promote healthy adjustment in the children following a separation or divorce.
Yeah, I think really taking in everything that we've said today, reaching out to a family professional, doing your own research to better understand your child, their needs, and how to navigate having that conversation with them, or providing them with the opportunity to speak to a professional in order for them to navigate their emotions with that professional. Sometimes, children, as much as they love you as their parents, it can be hard to talk about your feelings, your emotions, especially when the impact or the reason behind it is a separation of the parents. So I always encourage and I always ask, is there a social worker at your child's school? Does your child currently attend therapy? Is that something that you would support or you would encourage or that you're open to? So all of those different tools, not only for yourself to understand how to navigate these, unknowns and these difficult times, those same resources are available for your children to navigate it, the same sort of hurdles and emotions that you're experiencing. So another thing, and we said it through, like, being child focused is really, really important. You don't want to use your children as pawns or, manipulate or, pin the child against the other parent. We want to make sure that the children are safe, the children are healthy, and that safeguards are in place if necessary. But really encouraging and facilitating a strong relationship with your ex-spouse and their extended family, it's more often than not going to be beneficial to your child and the children, and to just remain focused on long term, right? How is this going to impact your child, and how can you set them up for the best success as they continue to grow up?
Thank you, Steph, for that, and Russ, and for everything, and all the questions to our audience. I think we had a great session today, and thank you for all your expertise. It's time to wrap up. But I did promise that there will be a code for a free 20-minute consultation, and you can call right now. What is
To
our
book
code
your
to book
appointment,
your
you might not get a
consultation?
lawyer, but we have operators on standby right now. We've asked them to stay late because we're running after hours tonight.
That is correct. Do we have any code for today, or
Yeah, Steph's always got a fantastic code. What do you think, Steph?
what have you come up this time?
Let's think. So today we talked a lot about children. So let's just say kids 2024.
Okay, so our code for today
Yes.
is KID 2024, and you want to send it to Nicole in our intake department. Her email is nicole@russellalexander.com, and I believe Steph is in the process of sending that in the chat. Um,
And that code expires Friday, so you want to make sure you get your appointment booked. You may get a survey, and any feedback that you have is going to help inform us in terms of what you want to understand, what we can help you with, or how we can do things better, right?
Yes, that's correct. So make sure you book your consultation by Friday, and feel free to call right now to book it because we are on standby and waiting for your call. And again, thank you everyone. Thank you, Russ, Steph. We're missing Joe today. We miss you, Joe, if you're listening, and we will have you all next week.
Thank you, Shanza. Thank you, Steph. Everybody have a great night. Thank you for participating so